Hey basses, today we're going to be playing Minuet in G by Bach. So make sure to tune your instrument, warm up, and then we'll jump right in. The piece is written to be at 120 BPM, but we're going to shoot for 100 BPM, which is a great tempo for a student. So first I'll play through the entire piece and then we'll break it down section by section. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So when we first get a new piece of music, we need to first look through, identify the notes, identify all the different rhythms we'll be playing, and of course, look for different dynamics as well. So take some time to do that before you jump into the next section. You'll notice we start out at a mezzo forte. We move to a forte at measure 9 with a crescendo in measure 8. And we end the piece in forte, but we can assume that in the last 2 bars, there will be a slight decrescendo or a slight getting softer to round out the piece and come to an end. Now the first challenge we face in this piece is our shift to the C under the second finger. So usually we play in first position, G, A, B. But now we're going to move to second position by sliding our first finger to the B and holding down the C with our second finger. We can practice this by doing just that. Starting on B and then sliding our first finger to the same B. 4th finger B. The more comfortable we can get with this slide from first finger A to first finger B, the faster we can get to the position we need to be in to play the C on our second finger. Let's just play these first 4 measures at a very slow tempo. I'll set my metronome to 80. Don't forget to slide. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Slide. Just like that. Now measure 7 presents us with a few different challenges. Now when we play our D scale, we usually play that high D with our 4th finger. It might be kind of hard to find that D with your 4th finger when we're coming from an open G. So you have an option. You can either bring down all 4 fingers at once to play with your 4th finger, or you can slide down to where your neck of the instrument meets this part right here. If your thumb is on just that corner, your index finger across should be directly on the D. Most basses are made that way. Mine is slightly off. It's always a little sharper than D, and some basses have it on an E flat. But usually when you slide down right to that middle point, that meeting point, you'll find the D with your first finger. So here's measures 5, 6, and 7. Well, just the beginning of 7, because our next challenge starts on the second beat of measure 7. Notice we have 2 notes slurred together, but both are staccato. So yes, they'll both be up bow because they're on one bow, but they need to be short as well. So what does that look like? What does it sound like? And what does it feel like? Here's from the high D. 1, 2, 3. So notice they are all in one bow, but they're slightly separated. In fact, I never really stopped moving my bow. I just reduced the amount of pressure. I just let up a little bit and then re-attack. Let's do that one more time. From the D, 1, 2, 3. Then in measure 8, we have our next challenge. We play our high D, and then suddenly we have to jump down to a low D on the up bow and slur up to a C on the G string. This means we need to do what's called a string crossing. In one bow, we're going to go from the D string to the G string. Just like that. You can practice it by doing your open strings first and then adding the closed C. I'll play high D, then open D to close C in a slur. As long as you keep the bow moving and push the weight of your arm over to the next string, you should get a clear note. Then, pretty suddenly, we have to shift back to first position. So once again, practice that shift by sliding from C all the way down to A. And it's not written in your part, but that A will need to be an up bow as well. So let's play from measure 5 to the first note of measure 9, which is the B half note. I'll set my tempo to 80. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That double up bow from C to A in the last measure, measure 9, is really challenging, but with practice you'll get it. In measure 10, we have the return of the double up bow slurred staccato. Yes, it is back for a sequel, and it's on the same exact notes, B and G. Once again, in measure 11, we have to play C with our second finger, but this time we don't have the opportunity to slide, because we're playing B, B, G, and in that open G, we have to move from first position to second position with our second finger down on C. The easiest way to do this, if you want the ancient master's secret, is look at your hand. B, G, I look at my hand and I just move my first finger to exactly where my B was. I'll try it from measure 9. 1, 2, 3. Yes, fall in love with your hand. It's beautiful. Now, in measure 12, we have a very, very important part because suddenly we have an 8th note run. Now, as bassists, we're usually being support instruments, so we don't really get to sing out or be the stars of the show that much. But you can tell when there's an 8th note run in a slow piece like this, in a more majestic piece like this, that the composer is telling us to make a little bit of a show about it. So when we play these 8th note runs, we want to really bring them out of the texture and lead into measure 13, because this is our moment to shine. And in fact, the cellos are going to be right there with us, representing for the low end strings. So let's give it a try. From measure 9 to the first note of measure 13, which is an A, we're going to play at 80 BPM. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Really bring those 8th notes out of the texture because they're delicious and they're yours. The last 2 measures of our piece present us with our final challenge, a molto ritardando. That means basically much slowing down. So we're going to bring this piece to an epic ending by slowing down the tempo, almost to half the speed. But it has to happen organically, or else it's going to be very uncomfortable, not only for you, but for the people listening. So how do we do that? Well, we just have to feel the beat slowing down as we play. Unfortunately, there isn't much more of a technical explanation, but here's a tip. If you move your body along to the beat, and when you reach measure 15, you start to slow down that movement, you'll naturally be able to play a little bit slower. You may look like a silly sea serpent, but that's totally okay, as long as it's in service of the music. Let's try it with our metronome now. You'll notice we're gonna get off the metronome at measure 15, but be steadfast and focus on slowing down that tempo in your body, and you'll overcome that android takeover of the metronome robots. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Awesome.
You saved us from the androids.
All right, the last thing we're going to do is run the whole entire piece at our practice tempo of 80. When you practice, always start at a slower tempo and then gradually increase it as you feel comfortable. If you increase the tempo and you don't feel comfortable anymore, that means it's time to go back a few clicks and really get it under your fingers at that slower rate. Are you ready to defeat Bach once and for all? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, bassist, great job. Keep on practicing, review these difficult passages, and you'll get it to 100 BPM in no time. See you next time.